Howdy, Immortalium here, and today I'm going to be discussing the economics of anime, as in how does anime make its money. So I think this is an area that I've seen a surprising amount of confusion around, where a lot of people just kind of assume they know how anime makes its money, when in reality it's actually a little different to how Western shows tend to make its money. So I thought I'd go into a bit of discussion on that and also discuss a bit of the production of anime as well. So let's start off with easily the biggest difference between anime shows and Western shows in terms of how they make their money. There's what you call mainstream anime, which is anime that airs during the day or at prime time, and there's what's called late night anime, which is anime that airs anywhere between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. And when it comes to a lot of these very mainstream anime series that air during the day, such as Sazai-san, such as Chibi Maruko-chan, etc., it is very much a case that they do earn money like Western TV series, which is that they air on television, they have sponsorships, they bring in advertising revenue, and the amount of advertising revenue that they bring in is based partially on how much viewership they have. However, a lot of these shows that we're familiar with as anime fans are actually what we'd call late night anime series. And late night anime series are very different in the sense that rather than make money through airing on television, they actually lose money. And you might be wondering to yourself, how does that work? And the reason for that is that these are essentially commercials. The people who produce these anime, who I'll discuss a bit in a moment, actually pay TV networks to actually air these shows on television, which essentially just makes them a giant commercial. And as you can imagine, that is insanely different to how things work over here. The only times we ever hear about that is infomercials. So it is an odd concept to think that a show is actually losing money as it airs on television. You might be wondering yourself, hang on, if they're losing money on television, how do they actually make any money? The way to do that is through several methods. Easily the most famous one is, of course, home video sales. So that is the sales of VHSs, DVDs, Blu-rays, what have you. And through these DVDs and Blu-rays, which can cost a lot of money, it isn't uncommon to see maybe $60 for 4 episodes, maybe even more. It actually doesn't take that many sales in order to be able to make a profit on an anime series, particularly since their budgets are well known to be quite low. Of course, they have loads of other sources of revenue as well. A very famous area, of course, is merchandising. So that is, of course, stuff like, selling figurines, selling lunchboxes, body pillows, etc. And actually, this form of merchandising is actually the way that anime has historically made its money. Famously, when Osamu Tezuka made Astro Boy, he was selling it for a loss to TV networks, and he was relying on overseas sales in order to be able to make a bit of a profit, but also on merchandising, which was licensing Astro Boy out to various companies to be able to use in various forms of products. And these forms of merchandising can be surprisingly profitable. For instance, the example I always like to go to is Puella Mashi Madoka Magica, which was a late night anime series, so it was losing money as it aired. It did really well in Blu-ray and DVD sales, was critically acclaimed, and within a couple of years it actually made $400 million from merchandising, which is huge, as you can imagine. So having spoken about those kind of revenue streams, now I want to discuss a bit of the production of anime themselves, because this is another area that I see a lot of confusion about. I think a lot more people need to be aware of this, and that is production committees. So the production committee is a relatively famous aspect of Japanese media production, in which a variety of companies come together, they each invest a bit of money to get certain rights, and then they can produce the actual series. So to give a bit of an example, a couple of companies might come together, they might invest some money, maybe one of them is particularly interested in merchandising, and so they invest a certain amount of money into the production. It gets them the right to create merchandise based on this anime series, and it is then up to them to be able to make a profit through merchandise sales. And you tend to see a lot of companies come together to be able to make anime series and to hand out these rights to everyone. So for instance, of course, a big area is music production. There will often be a company involved who is interested in selling the music based on the anime series. Aniplex would be a very good example of this, and they will invest a certain amount of money, get the rights to distribute the soundtrack, as well as to be able to get the rights for some of their stars to use their songs in the opening and ending of the anime. It has also gotten to the point now where a lot of Western companies are actually beginning to get involved in these production committees. A pretty famous example a few years back was Funimation, when Funimation got involved in the production committee for Dimension W. The reason that Funimation wanted to get involved with this production committee was so that they could cut out the bidding war, that they'd get more long-term rights to the series, and they'd also be able to have some kind of involvement in the actual production of the series. So as you can imagine, Funimation and a variety of other Western companies have become very interested in getting on these production committees. However, there are some disadvantages to these production committees, and one of the disadvantages is the fact that the profit can be spread very unevenly. So as I mentioned before, the company that invests in merchandising will be the ones getting the vast majority of the money from merchandising sales, same with all of the other rights. And that is why we quite often hear that anime studios actually don't make that much money from anime series, even if they prove to be very popular, which is why we've heard a lot about the poor wages for animators when it comes to making these anime series. I guess the last thing I want to discuss when it comes to how anime can make money, the reason I wanted to leave this to last is because this is the area that I'm the least familiar with, is of course streaming revenues. So obviously the idea of streaming anime online is a relatively new concept, and back when it was pretty much just Crunchyroll and a couple of other services bidding for these anime series, the amount of revenue that they would contribute to an anime series was relatively small. Quite often I'd hear that they typically get the streaming rights for about the budget of one anime episode of the series. Obviously that varies from series to series, but that's something that I heard about. And as time has gone on, and of course other streaming giants have started to come into the anime ring, such as Netflix, such as Amazon Prime, etc, etc. I've heard that apparently these bidding wars for these anime series have gone through the roof. And so apparently there is a huge amount of money to be made through streaming rights these days. I haven't heard any specifics when it comes to how much money they actually make these days from streaming rights, but that's certainly an important area when it comes to the economics of anime. So that was my discussion on the economics of anime. Of course, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on the economics of anime. What other revenue sources have you heard about? What do you know about anime production committees? What are your thoughts on the fact that a lot of late night anime series are essentially commercials? And of course, if you have any other information about anime revenue, about production committees, etc, etc, please leave them in the comments below. And of course, if you want to support the channel, I would encourage you to use my Amazon and Right Stuff affiliate links in the description below. When you purchase an anime or manga through those affiliate links, not only are you supporting me, not only are you supporting the channel, but you're also supporting the anime and manga industry. So I would highly encourage you to purchase anime and manga through those affiliate links. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye bye.